Good morning, everybody. I want to start off by saying that God has a purpose and a plan for every one of us. God's been looking over me and protecting me my whole life. When I was between 12 and 13, I witnessed a violent crime. I could have and I should have stopped it, but I didn't. I just walked on by. Within the next few months, I tried to commit suicide. I took so many pills. My mom heard me hit the floor. She picked me up, carried me down the stairs. My mom was about as big as my wife, kind of little. Took me to a Catholic hospital. I came to for a minute while tubes were down my throat. They were pumping my stomach. Then I came to again as the priest was giving me last rites. So I knew they knew I wasn't going to make it. I did. God only knew why. I've been suicidal for over 40 years. When I was 19, before I got married, I tried again. I blew the pilot light out on my stove, the oven, turned it on, laid down in front of it. Figured I'll be dead by morning. I'm a little shaky. Figuring I would be dead by the morning. Again, I survived. Only God knew why. And again, when I was 24, I tried 2 more times. I was sitting out in front of the house. I put the gun in my mouth. Just as I was getting ready to pull the trigger, my daughter ran out the front door. Smiling, jumping, ready to play. I put the gun down. Then a couple weeks later, I was in my car and I was going to run it as fast as I could into a tree. Well, God didn't let me get up to speed. The clutch went out. Cops got me. Yep, they were right behind me. Believe me, they were hitting me. And I went to jail. I sat in there for 10 days. And when I was in jail, I asked for something to read, and they brought me comic books. Bunch of pages missing, so I asked if they had anything else that didn't have pages missing. They brought me a Bible. And when I was little, I'm talking, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, this elderly couple, and they were probably in their 30s, but they were elderly to me. They took me and my brother to church every Sunday. And so from those Sundays, I knew what I had to do to get saved. So I knew to pray for salvation, and God saved me. I wanted that even if I had to stay in jail. I told God I would live for Him whether I was in jail or not. And at that moment, it felt like a whole weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, even though I was looking at somewhere around the 40 years in prison. And I wasn't just speeding when they were catching me. I was trying to hurt them too. I should have bent these pages a little bit so they'd be easier to get apart. When I went to court, I basically got a smack on the hands and told I was a bad boy. God had saved my life again, this time, my soul. I've been blessed to have a wife that has prayed for me every day. And we've been married 39, dated for 3, and she's prayed for me all that time. Since the day I got saved, I have not tried suicide again. I have though thought of suicide every day. I even considered it. But I've always told my children that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I knew that, but it didn't stop me from thinking about it and considering it. Then a sermon by Pastor Mark gave a few months ago, opened up a conversation between my wife and I about forgiveness, and I had never told her about the crime that I witnessed when I was a young teen. I never told anyone except God. God forgave me, but I was never willing to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself. And I'm a truck driver, and up in Belleville making deliveries. And I saw a sign on a church up there that said, "Stop judging yourself for your past. You don't live there anymore." And that really hit home. All through my life, God's been watching over me. I knew He had a plan for me, but I was too stubborn to listen. I took the cheap road to salvation. Christ died for my sins, and I sat in a pew. I told God I'd live for Him, but I really wasn't living for Him on the inside. On the outside, I could talk the talk years ago. I served in different ways in our church and never told anyone how I was really feeling on the inside, that I wasn't worthy of God or serving in the church. The people didn't really know me. I didn't feel I deserved to be happy. Every time I felt happy, I would do something to mess that up. I don't think I did it consciously, but I do stupid things that would take away my happiness. This past year has been an eye-opener. Coming back following COVID and realizing how much we miss being here on a regular basis. Still just a pew sitter, but it felt better being in a pew than watching on TV. And when Pastor Mark gave his sermon dealing with forgiveness, and that turned into several conversations with my wife and revelations on both sides, what she was feeling and what I was feeling. And God has continued to work in me that He started years ago. There came from those conversations a great healing. Terry and I started that first conversation that Sunday. I realized that the only time I had thought about suicide was to think, I haven't thought about suicide lately. And it's no longer a normal part of my thought process. What I had realized was that I had been forgiven years ago. And when I asked Christ into my life, I was never able to let go of my sin. God was telling me to let go. It's over. It's in the past. I now have been able to do that and moving forward with a peace that really does pass all understanding. My favorite verse is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I've used that verse every time my thoughts were going in the wrong direction. It's still my favorite verse because I realize I'm still here because of Christ. Without Christ, I would have succeeded at my attempts, I'm sure of it. My goal in sharing this story is that anyone who may be suffering from thoughts of suicide can realize there's hope in Christ. Share your suffering with someone else here in the church. Pastor Mark, Pastor Jesse, me, one of your brothers and sisters sitting right around you. Don't let your past dictate who you are in Christ. I'm willing to allow God to use me in whatever way He sees fit. Thank you all very much.